Hi, Stampers. This is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations, and I'd like to welcome you to my portion of the Crafty Collaborations January through April mini catalog kickoff. So, we are kicking off this gorgeous new mini catalog that just went live today, which is January 4th, 2024, and it will run through the end of April. But you're going to want to take a look early because there's also celebration that's happening just in January and February. And there's lots of extra goodies in here that you're going to absolutely love. But what I'm showing you today is the hot air balloon suite. So I'm going to be working with the stamp set, the dies, the embellishments, and the designer series paper. So I have a whole bunch of gorgeous stuff that I can't wait to show you. So let's get started. So here's my desk, and this is the card we're going to be making. And like I said, it features the Stampin' Up! Stamp set, hot air balloons, also the hot air balloon dies, and the designer series paper. Lots of fun stuff in there. I went ahead and I did some of the die cutting and the cutting already. I wanted to show you all of the pieces that are in the designer series paper really quick. So I just kind of put them in here, showing you both sides, because it's just gorgeous. And one of the best things about Stampin' Up! Is their color coordination. And the color coordination is, of course, featured on the back of all of our designer series papers, where they're going to list out all of the colors that they used. And so that makes it really easy to decide what cardstocks you're going to use. And so going from that list, I chose to use a balmy blue card base. And see if you can see my measurements here. I'm showing you that this piece is 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 2 3/4 and then 5 1/2. And I did the same thing with a 1 inch by 11 inch piece. I scored this at the 2 3/4 and at the 5 1/2. Then I have some fresh freesia, another one of the colors from our designer series paper. This piece is 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I have two of them that are 4 1/8 by 2 5/8. And then two pieces of basic white that are 2 1/2 by 4. And then I have a piece of the designer series paper that is 4 by 5 1/4. And then I have a scrap of basic white we're going to be stamping onto. And then, like I said, I've already done some die cutting. And notice that this die is very detailed. And so there's not much room on the back side to put your glue. So because of that, before I die cut them, I took my paper and added some of our adhesive sheet to the back and then die cut it. And so these are actually going to be stickers. We'll be able to peel off the backing and reveal the sticky stuff and not have to make a mess with glue. So I've got my balloon pieces. I've got a bunch of clouds. Oh, and I've got the basket. And I've got some little strips of acetate. And I just kind of cut these pieces into little strips based on using the acetate that actually comes with the stamp set. When you get our photopolymer stamp sets, they come on a sheet of acetate. And so there's one that's very thin, and then there's one that's stiffer. I use the stiff part as these little sticks that we're going to be using. And then I can use the softer part as part of maybe a shaker card or something. I don't throw them away, but I take them off of these acetate sheets and then just stick my stamps directly into the case. That makes it easier for me to deal with. So let's get started with our card. We're going to go ahead and fold it at the 5 1/2 inch. And I always line up these ends and then push back into my score line. making sure that I am flush on the ends. This piece is scored in half, so I'm going to do kind of the same thing again. I'm going to make sure that I'm flushed on this side and then push back into my score line. This one kind of same idea. This time I'm just making sure that my score lines are perpendicular and keeping this piece straight. Then we're just going to add some basic layers. So we'll start out with putting on our fresh freesia layer. I'm going to be using a liquid glue because I'm using 1/8 of an inch border rather than 1/4 of an inch. So it's pretty small. If you are worried about 1/8 of an inch, you might want to pop on over to my blog, queenbeecreations.net, and check out my store because I have a free download over there that is a piece you can add to your ruler on your trimmer that will show you where the 1/8 inch marks are. Makes it much easier. And it's free. You just download it and print it out. And then I put clear packing tape over mine before adhering it to my trimmer. So you can see I just folded the tape over and then I put tear and tape on it to stick it to my ruler. I took it off, but you can see it marks it every 1/8 of an inch. So you might find that helpful. Oh, sorry about that. There go my dogs. I have 2 poodles that usually join me on my lives. I go live twice a week on YouTube, and Sophie and Pixie usually join me. Sometimes I think people are more excited to see them than they are me, but they are awfully cute. Sophie's a miniature poodle and Pixie is a toy. So they're just little ones. All right. So now I'm going to want to adhere these layers first before I adhere this strip. But in order to put these on, we're going to do a little bit of decorating. So we're going to start with some stamping. Move some things out of my way here. I have a piece of vellum here just trying to stop the glare from our beautiful glass mat. Did you guys notice this thing? The glass mat is something that you can earn for free during celebration by signing up to be a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Now, being a demonstrator, you can either choose to do that as a business or you can be a personal shopper. But either way, you pay $99 and get $125 worth of Stampin' Up! Product, whatever it is that you want. And during celebration, you have the option to add on this glass mat studio. And they call it a studio because we also have this silicone mat that, of course, sticks onto here and is a great way to hold your ink pads straight. You can use it for watercoloring. There's lots and lots of things you can use for it. And then we have this little cleaning mat that easily wipes off our glass mat. And you can earn that for free or add that to your kit for free just during January and February of 2024. I need to move this out of the way because we're going to be doing a little bit of blending. So I'm going to take one of our blending brushes. These are fabulous. And I'm going to use a stencil that I created using the back of our designer series paper because this is a nice thickness. It's not as thick as some of cardstocks, but it's thicker than our papers, if that makes sense. And I used the, here we go, Basic Borders dies. And I used this one right here that looks like clouds. And I cut the edge of it. And then I'm going to use this as a stencil to blend some balmy blue ink onto these Whisper White layers. And you can start either on the glass or on this paper, but you don't want to go direct to your basic white. You want to swirl onto it, because when you first set down the brush, you often will get kind of a harsh mark, and you want that on your scrap, not on your project. And this glass surface smooths very easily. It blends on and off the paper easily. And then all you have to do is take your gray mat and just wipe it off. So I'm going to do this one for the inside, and then we're going to do one more. And I'm going to do a few more layers of clouds on this one. You get better results going a little slower. I tend to try to speed things up when I'm on camera, and that doesn't always yield the best results. So you take your time, because you can always add more. It's hard to take it off. So just keep that in mind. Okay, for this one, I'm going to stamp our sentiment from our hot air balloons stamp set. We're going to use this Up, Up, and Away, Hooray, It's Your Birthday. I already One of my tips is that I take the stamp and I line it up on the grids on here, face down, and then I set my block onto it, aligning my block with the grids. Then I'm aligning my paper to the grid. And so with everything aligned, that gives me the best chance at making sure my sentiment is straight. I have cut my chamois into fourths because I find the littler pieces easier to deal with. Okay, so now we're going to stamp our large balloon. And then I'm going to stamp the middle of the balloon using a different stamp. You're going to get your, ooh, that's a little bubbly. I would suggest rubbing this with the back of a spoon, which I don't have on my desk right now. But by rubbing it with something, what you're doing is you're pushing the ink down into the pad and evening it out, and that will get rid of the bubbles. There we go. I'm not getting as many bubbles now. And then for alignment, you want to look straight down from the top. I'm at a bit of an angle this way, but if you go straight down from the top, you're going to align that a whole lot better. But we'll go with it. You get the idea, right? So now I'm going to use our pecan pie for the basket that's going to go under the balloon, and those two things are going to die cut separately. And then for this petal pink one, I went ahead and stamped onto that. Again, this is going to give you your best image if you go straight down from the top. Let's see, there was one more. Oh, this one. Now, this one, what I did on here is I stamped it onto the cardstock, but you may want to die cut it directly out of our designer series paper, because the dies actually line up with these balloons here. So you can use the dies to either die cut a balloon straight out of cardstock, stamp it and then die cut it out, or you can use these and die cut it straight out of the designer series paper. And then you don't have to worry about coloring. I would say if you were to do this, I would die cut it out of here and then maybe adhere it to some cardstock as an additional backing, just to make it a little stronger if it's going to be one of these ones standing up, because the designer series paper on its own may be a little too flimsy. Let's see. I have it out? Yes, I do. So this time we're using Lemon Lolly. Okay. Now I'm going to bring in the dies that I need to die cut these. And I'm going to use my mini die cutting machine, because that one just works better on camera. And all of these dies fit through this nice and easy because they're all less than 3 inches wide. This is a great little machine to take with you if you're traveling. And you'll be able to tell in the catalog if the set of dies will fit in the mini machine, because they all have a little symbol that says mini right next to them, letting you know which ones can be used in the mini machine. And all that means is that every die in the set is actually going to fit through there. There are other sets that may have a die that will not fit through the mini, but that just means one out of the entire set doesn't fit, not that all of them won't fit. So this little symbol right here tells you that every one of these dies will fit through that. Now in this one, there may be one of these that's a little wider than the 3 inches, but all of these smaller ones obviously fit through the mini. All right, so there's all our little pieces. Bring back in, this one's going to go on the front. Our sentiment's going to go inside here. And then we can adhere this strip. So what I want this strip to do is go in reverse of what my outside one is doing. So my outside one had the score line, you know, the halfway mark here. On the inside piece, the halfway mark is going to go on the inside. So that's what gives us this shape. So we can either adhere the adhesive to here or here. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to use a little more adhesive than normal because it's going to get more action than normal. The great thing about the Stamp and Seal is you don't need very much. A little bit goes a long way. The trick is that you want to get it to snap off up here. So when you're rolling, you're going to want to end it by flipping it a little forward and snapping. Roll and snap, because when you don't, it may have a tendency to stick to the case back here, or maybe break off further back. So the next time you go to use it, it's not going to touch. I mean, the tip of the adhesive is not going to be there, because look, when you let go of it, it kind of gets stringy. So you have to kind of watch where that's going to snap off and make sure it snaps off at the top. Once you get that nailed, it's really easy to work with. So don't let it intimidate you, because it's fantastic stuff. And you usually don't need very much. I've had some people tell me they buy their adhesive from the big box store because it's so much cheaper, but it doesn't stick as well. And this one actually ends up being cheaper because you don't have to use as much. So in the long run, this actually ends up being cheaper from what I have found. Okay, so this little piece is going to go back here. It needs to hang a little bit down, so there's some room in between. So you have two ways of doing this. You can either adhere your balloon and then adhere this separately, or you can put a little bit of adhesive back here and then touch this down to it so that it barely touches. Either way works. I kind of wanted to center it in here and let a little bit of it hang onto this part. So I'm going to go ahead and use a glue dot and adhere my basket first. And then I'm going to put some adhesive on this. I lived in Los Lunas, New Mexico for about 12 years, raised our kids out there, and it was gorgeous because every year they had the International Hot Air Balloon Festival. So people from all over the world came and brought their hot air balloons, and it was just gorgeous when they would all go up at the same time and the air would just be filled with them. And we actually played chase crew at one time, where we followed behind the balloon as it floated. And then when it landed, we helped them, bag it up and stick it in the truck and bring it back. And by doing that, I got a chance to actually ride in the balloon on one of the times they did a mass ascension, which is when they all go up at once. So much fun. It's pretty from the ground, but oh my gosh, it is so much prettier from the air. So if you ever get into Albuquerque, the end of September, beginning of October, you're going to want to check out the Hot Air Balloon Festival because it is fabulous. All right, so here's my little basket for this one. And then I did not create a basket for this one because I'm just going to have it hover a little bit low. So I'm going to adhere this first. So I've got a petal pink balloon with a petal pink ink onto it. And then this is Calypso Coral, and this is Basic White. Again, I'm peeling off the adhesive sheet and then laying this down over the top. And then I want my glue dots again. And I'm going to stick that one right here. And then I'm going to want one of my little sticks here. My little piece of acetate. It's approximately 2 1/4 by 1/4. And I'm going to put 2 glue dots near the bottom. I find if I put 2, it doesn't, I don't know, rotate as much as it would if I had just put 1. I'm not sure why that makes a difference, but it does. And then I want to stick my balloon on here. but I want to be sure that it's not going to go higher than the card because I want it to still fit into my envelope. Oops, come on. So I've got one glue dot. Could have used two. So I'm going to just tuck one more back in there. Again, because it just keeps it from wiggling. Then I want one below the basket, the one for the basket that's going to hang below. And I'm just making sure that my glue dot is on that piece of acetate. And then I am using a few of the little clouds that I die cut using the hot air balloon dies. And again, I have the adhesive sheet on the back, making these nice and easy to adhere. It's just peel and stick. Okay, there's some additional pieces if you wanted to decorate the balloons up further. On this one, I used the little banner flags. This one, I'm going to do a little something different, just so you see more of what the dies will do. And you can mix and match the stamp and the design paper with just many options. It's wonderful. And then you just want to kind of follow the curve of the balloon and see where they fit on the edges. Isn't that gorgeous? And then if you choose to, like I said, you can add the, there we go, the embellishments that come with it. Again, they are done in the colors. These are the rainbow adhesive backed dots, and they're in the same colors that are in the designer series paper. And then I also decorated an envelope, and I did this by using the extra 2-inch piece. Remember I said this was 4 inches? So because they were 6 by 6, I cut 2 inches off the top. And so I used that on my envelope. Now the 2 inches was not quite enough. So I laid down a strip of cardstock first, and then I glued the designer series paper over that. And then I used one of the border edge dies to die cut the edge of my envelope. And there you go. There is my card using the hot air balloon suite. I hope you love it. Thanks. Bye.